Hello, good evening. You found your way to ResonantMind. This is our ongoing Sunday series. We're so glad that you've joined us wherever you are. Here we are together. What's coming up is a series of presentations from our collective of therapists, healers, artists, and practitioners who all wish to share ways that they can help you expand your own practices and your mind. Before we get started, we like to acknowledge that this broadcast takes place on lands of Indigenous and Aboriginal people. I myself, your host, Josh Adler, am coming to you from Haudenosaunee territory. We also wish to acknowledge that this is a time of unprecedented, or at least in our lifetimes, unprecedented upheaval, pressures beyond the norm, and loss. So thank you for making time in your day to join our community. This episode is dedicated to resilience, the force or process of individual or systematic recovery. When adversity strikes, when trauma occurs, when stress takes its toll, resilience is a way of getting ourselves back onto our feet. In fact, the great Sufi poet Rumi said, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and attend them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrow who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight." In these thoughts, Rumi expresses an awareness between the option for reactiveness, when our instincts kick in if we touch the hot flame or are knocked down off of our feet, versus responsiveness, where the light of awareness is allowed to shine in before we respond to whatever the adversity or challenge is that we're facing. As one of our friends and collective members in ResonantMind wrote recently to me, the difference between reactiveness and responsiveness is always begun in the breath. For the breath is the seat of awareness. So I invite you to think of this human beingness, this living in a guest house, the impermanence of that, as a consideration throughout our evening's presentation. I also like to consider that our bodies are more expansive than sometimes we understand. That our physical bodies do not stop at the organism level. That we also are housed as guests in the ecological bodies, where soil and coral reefs and their recovery and resilience are just as important as our own personal health. That the resilience of our cities, our businesses, our psyches, our social resilience is a part of our bodies, as well as our technological bodies, the extensions of ourselves, our cars when we drive, our buildings when we go visit, as well as our information networks. So there's much to consider in the dimensions of resilience. There's much to unfold. To begin with, we'll start with a presentation on our nutritional health from Crystal and Lena, who are co-founders of Present Plate, which is an alliance of curious, conscious humans who want to connect through food and learn tools to navigate the complex and dynamic world of health.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Lee, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about food systems and shifting from fragile supply chains to more resilient ones. Specifically, I'm going to try and convince you that you should be paying more for your food. And yes, I realize that we're in the midst of an economic downturn and a lot of uncertainty, but please just hear me out. A little bit more about me. I have worked in the food industry for the past 11 years, working for agricultural food manufacturers such as a Greek extra virgin olive oil company, organic and fair trade sugar, as well as an artisanal boutique soy sauce company. I have seen firsthand how our food systems are negatively impacting our health and our planet. I also see how dire it is that we make shifts in our eating and purchasing habits in order to save ourselves. Throughout these past few months, you may have noticed some of the fragility of our food system. Empty grocery store shelves, not being able to eat at your favorite restaurant, and increasing prices on staple food items. While some of this is due to panic buying and the coronavirus shutting down businesses, it's also due to breaks in the chain of our food system's life cycle. To give you a better idea of how the food system works, I'm going to talk a little bit about corn and chicken. So why corn? Well, corn is the #1 crop in the U.S., but not because it's feeding people. In the U.S., corn is used primarily for ethanol, animal feed, and high fructose corn syrup. Huge fields of genetically uniform monocrops like corn are especially vulnerable to pests and diseases, which means mostly all the corn here is genetically modified, sprayed with pesticides, and is damaging to the soil. But it does have high yields. So industrialized farming like this is harmful to the environment and to your health. Do you think that that's worth the price of cheap corn? To further illustrate the input and resources that go into the production of corn, I'm going to walk you through 5 main steps in the life cycle of corn. So, number 1, the origin resource. That is the farm. That is where the crop is grown. That includes the resources that go into it, such as water, sun, the farm workers, the farmers, the sprays and the pesticides. That is the origin of the resource. The second step is the agricultural production. So this is the harvesting and the acquisition. The third step is food processing, packaging, and distribution. So processing looks different for different products, but it's basically turning the raw material of corn into corn syrup, into the ethanol, into the food product. And next is you package it. And finally, you distribute it. So distribution can go a lot of different ways. It can go straight to a grocery store. It can go to another supplier to turn it into something else, which is the case with corn syrup. Corn syrup is very permeated in the U.S. food system. It is found in many, many products because it's cheap and it's sweet. And those are dangerous combinations in our food system. And then the next step in this is preparation and consumption. So that's the consumer getting it, eating it. And step 5 is the end of life. So that is where it ends up. In most cases with the food product, it ends up in a landfill. So there are a lot of resources and inputs that go into the production of anything, and even something as cheap as corn. With our current food system life cycle, Americans are consuming an abundance of low-cost food while only spending a mere 10% of their disposable income on food. So store prices do not reflect the external costs, economic, social, environmental, that impact the sustainability of the food system. Considering this full cycle of the food system, it really illuminates this connection between consumption behaviors, the cost of food, and production practices. My next example is chicken, or Tyson Foods. I'm going to use an actual manufacturer in the US. Tyson Foods is an American multinational corporation and the world's second largest processor and marketer of chicken, beef, and pork. Tyson Foods ranked number 80 in the 2018 Fortune 500 list of the largest US corporations by total revenue. So this is big bucks, and this is not just in the US. Tyson is a huge exporter of meat to all over the world. So this is a food system that's affecting everyone. Tyson chicken is a very inexpensive product. You can get a family pack of chicken breasts for around $10 US. So how is this product so cheap? Well, we are paying a very hefty price for it in many other ways. One, the environment is paying. Tyson Foods has been, and currently still is, involved in dozens of lawsuits, including class action lawsuits related to air and water pollution, let alone individuals suing about their own health. The company has even admitted to illegally dumping untreated toxic wastewater from its poultry processing plants, pleading guilty to felony violations of the Federal Clean Water Act. Another way that we're paying for it is the employment of undocumented immigrants. Tyson was charged with conspiracy to smuggle and hire undocumented workers to work on its production lines. Prosecutors allege that the conspiracy to import workers dates back to 1994, when plant managers began to find it difficult to fill positions with cheap labor. Of the 6 managers who were indicted, 2 accepted plea bargain deals and 1 committed suicide. Tyson Foods has literally been importing undocumented immigrants to work in their factories for wages that no one else will work. Another reason? Employee abuse. An Oxfam report issued in 2016 cited anonymous employees who stated they have been denied bathroom breaks so frequently that they have started wearing adult diapers. Workers struggle to cope with this denial of a basic human need. They urinate and defecate while standing on the line. They wear diapers to work. They restrict intake of liquids and fluids to dangerous degrees. They endure pain and discomfort while they worry about their health and job security. According to a professor of occupational health at George Washington University, on average, more than 1 Tyson Foods employee is injured and amputates a finger or limb per month. So all of this for cheap labor so that they can sell cheap products. I'm not going to get into animal abuse, food recalls, fraudulent marketing practices, mislabeling, undisclosed use of antibiotics, or the high costs of political lobbying. But the total dollar amount that Tyson has been penalized since the year 2000 is $169 million. Tyson would rather pay these fines and settle these lawsuits because it's cheaper than reforming their business model and becoming a responsible food manufacturer, and because they keep getting away with it. So here's the gist. While it may seem like these products are relatively inexpensive, they absolutely are not. And we are paying for these cheap foods in the worst ways. Every time you are buying into this food system that is cheap meat, you are voting with your dollars. You are supporting a system that will never be resilient. You are supporting a system that keeps us in a detrimental and damaging cycle. We have to start shifting our purchasing habits when it comes to food consumption. We are in a food cycle trap, and the only way out is to not participate. So, what can you do about it? Essentially, we have to redesign the relationships between food producers, processors, retailers, and consumers so as to shorten the supply chains and create more slack in the system. That requires decentralizing away from factory and industrialized farming, and more localization. Specifically, some of the steps that you can take to start shifting into a more resilient food system are: 1. Eat less meat, and only buy meat that you know exactly how it was raised and where it came from. Which means shopping at your local butcher and doing more diligent research on your producers. Become that person who double checks labels and ensures they are getting quality. Meat production, as it is widely practiced today, has significant environmental impacts on land use, and water pollution. Make sure you know the source. Number 2, eat organic. Organic farms don't use chemicals that pollute soil and water or that present negative human health impacts. When you buy organic, you are buying into a resilient food system, and you are voting for your health and for the environment instead of against it. Number 3, eat local. When you buy from a farmer's market, you have completely cut out all of these middlemen in the food system. You are going straight to the source, and you're supporting a resilient food system. If you have the space, you can even start to grow your own victory garden. Another easy way to eat local is to buy into a CSA share. I'll tell you a little bit more about a CSA in just a moment. But what I'm getting at here is you should start trying to buy directly from farmers and suppliers. And that way you are creating a resilient food system for yourself. One of the many reasons that most people do not eat organic or shop from local farmers markets is because they find it to be too expensive or inaccessible or even a luxury item. Clean, healthy food should never be viewed as a luxury item. It should be reasonable, fair, and accessible to all. But at the same time, the cost of food should not be cheap. You might be paying lower prices on the front end, but on the back end, it's going to cost you more in medical expenses, pharmaceutical drugs, and a hefty price tag on the environment and farmers and farm workers who were working those lands. When you buy into an inexpensive food system, the food system that supports inhumane animal abuse, poisoning of your food, and poisoning of the environment and water, you are voting into a system that will never be resilient, and you are a willing participant in the demise of your own health. I know that may seem harsh, but we have a pretty complicated food system, and we must prioritize food production methods that deliver nutritious, organic, and affordable food, and that is fair to farmers and farm workers. The only way for us to get there is to start buying into the right food systems. Now, what is affordable to one person may not be affordable to another, but I have personally found that participating in a local CSA can be very affordable. Community-supported agriculture has become a popular way for consumers to buy local, seasonal food directly from a farmer. A CSA is a program in which individuals buy into a farm by purchasing a share. In turn, they receive a bountiful selection of fresh produce every week throughout the season. So to give you an example, last summer I participated in a CSA share right here in New York from Lancaster Farm Fresh Co-op. I got a meat share, a vegetable share, a fruit share, an herb share, and a flower share. All of that cost me $60 per week. And it was organic, it was humanely raised. If it was the meat, it was all the right things, and it was local. And I found that $60 a week to be very affordable. Plus, I knew where it was going, and I knew the system I was going into. It's kind of incredible to me, I believe. So what I'm getting at here is eating farm fresh and local might not be as unaffordable as you think. You just have to know where to look. So remember, eat less meat, know where it's coming from, eat organic, and eat local. Because what we really can't afford to keep doing is destroying the health of our physical bodies and this planet. The next time you're in the grocery store aisle or sitting down for a meal, you can vote with your dollars for the type of future you'd like to see for yourself and for our world. If you're interested in finding more resources for real food, Chef Lena, who you'll be hearing from next, and I have an organization called Present Plate, and we've got additional resources on our website. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope that I've made a compelling case for why you should be spending more on your food.
Hi, I'm Lena Elkusi. I am a nutritional chef, a health coach, and a yoga teacher. And I'm also one of the co-founders of Present Plate. We're a community organization dedicated to reconnecting people to their food. So because today's topic is resiliency, I wanted to talk about resiliency in our own individual health and how to live a preventative lifestyle. We can access more energy, clarity, and joy by way of personal choices. One of the biggest zappers of our vitality is inflammation. So you've probably heard the word inflammation buzzing around in the wellness world for the past few years. Inflammation is a function of the immune system, which is the body's natural response to injury or infection. So it's a really important part of our healing system, but it can go into overdrive, and that's what we call chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation is the condition in which the inflammatory response is overactive and the immune system that normally protects us starts to attack and destroy healthy tissues, arteries, organs, and joints. Medical studies have shown that chronic inflammation can be directly linked to a few causes, specifically here, diet and lifestyle. Symptoms can show up as chronic pain, brain fog, poor digestion, headaches, recurring infections, fatigue, and poor sleep, and mood disorders like anxiety and depression. And then over time, chronic inflammation can lead to a host of common deadly ailments, including heart disease, diabetes, obesity, Alzheimer's, and cancer, as well as various autoimmune diseases like eczema and MS, arthritis, asthma, and IBD, just to name a few. These diseases can damage tissue permanently over time and impair the body's ability to heal itself, thus causing deterioration of health and overall quality of life. Another main cause of inflammation is stress, when the adrenals are pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. While these magical hormones are like superpowers in emergency situations, they're corrosive to the system when they're constantly present. When we live in chaotic cities, toxic relationships, and toxic work environments, we experience long periods of chronic stress. And let's face it, we often create our own stress by obsessing and worrying about the future or the past, or creating unnecessary drama, or just general negative thinking. Okay, so that's a lot. So there's no snake oil cure-all elixir. We're complex beings, and it's taken a lifetime of learning and practicing in the default way to get us to where we are today. Unfortunately, the default way in most cultures in the world today is quick fixes, easy, cheap, fast foods, preserved with chemicals and packed in single-use plastic. Click a button for anything on demand, shiny packaged cleanses that'll fix any problem you have. And all of this with a pharmaceutical cherry pill on top to mask the symptoms and create more problems. So what can we do? We can take responsibility for an initiative for our own health and well-being, and we can learn how to live a preventative lifestyle. So these are things that we already know we should do, but maybe in this context of reducing inflammation, it will hit a new note with you. So because we're a culmination of all of the habits that we practice on a daily basis, we have to start with creating new habits. And this takes time and it takes consistency. And it's important to be gentle with yourself, but also disciplined. So finding that balance is really important as you try to shift your lifestyle into a different one than you're in. Stay curious during the whole process. Always ask questions, research, read, review, talk to people. And every moment is a chance to make infinite new choices. So you're constantly starting over and practicing again and again. So we'll start here. So inform yourself. So that's number one. Read labels. This is one of the most important things that I share with people. Everything is in the label, all the chemicals, all the nutrition information, everything. So read the labels, get familiar with what toxic foods are, what preservatives look like. These are all things that can be really detrimental to your health. Read articles, be curious, memorize the top inflammatory foods. So wheat, dairy, soy, alcohol, corn, sugar, shellfish, peanuts, trans fats, refined cooking oils, red meat and pork, cigarettes, pesticides, and artificial ingredients are just a few of them, but those are some of the top ones. And you get to know your body. As you try new things, you just learn how to listen to what your body is telling you. So you're getting feedback as you start to experiment with the new information that you're gaining. Getting to know the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 is a great way to learn about organic foods. I'm not going to get into it here, but it's a list of foods that are okay to eat inorganic and a little bit safer. And then there's the Dirty Dozen is the ones that you should never eat inorganic. Reread things, review things, take notes. I have tons of notebooks with loads of information of things that I've learned over the years. This is life school. So, study. Okay, you knew this was coming. I'm a chef. Cook your own food, right? So as a rule of thumb, packaged foods, restaurant foods, and pre-made foods contain low-quality ingredients that are inorganic and inflammatory, unless otherwise specified. So unless a restaurant says, this is where we got our meat from and we use organic vegetables and we don't use refined oils, they most likely are. And if they're not, I want to eat there. So ideally, as we all know by now, we want to be eating a plant-forward diet, a lot of leafy greens, a whole rainbow of vegetables for fiber and phytonutrients. So get a CSA box, like a local farm box. Go to your local farmers market, talk to your farmers, talk to chefs, talk to people that are there, and learn to cook the majority of your food and really be self-sufficient so that you know what you're putting in your body. And get into a rhythm with it. So soak the beans and the grains for the next day, and figure out how to incorporate leftovers from one meal into the next meal. And, be adventurous and be creative and be playful. Try new ingredients and Google recipes. You can Google almost any recipe and go through loads of them and find something that seems simple and approachable and go for it. Really, cooking is so fun. I'm a little biased, but, and then, you can also make cooking a meditative practice, and, chopping and really being present with it. And another practice that can be meditative is washing dishes, and washing dishes is a reality of cooking your own food. So learning how to make it a task that isn't something that you dread doing every day that causes stress is medicine, really. And it can also be a great time to collaborate with other people in your house on a creative cooking project, or maybe you do the dishes together, you put the music on and you clean the kitchen and you dance and make it a celebration of community and of food. And then while you're cooking your own food, make it nutrient dense. So make your food work harder for you. Just tons of herbs and spices, is really one of the most potent ways that you can make your food medicinal. So add in things like loads of turmeric and black pepper and cinnamon and cumin and garlic and ginger and fresh herbs like basil, parsley, cilantro, rosemary, and sage. They all add a myriad of health benefits, and the majority of them possess anti-inflammatory properties and other medicinal benefits. So they also add delicious depth and flavor to anything you're making. So that's pretty cool. And there's so many different ones, and it's really fun to experiment. And I always say go heavy with your herbs and spices, like give it bold flavors. I think that's one of the things that make chefs' food stand out from the home cooks. So be adventurous, be bold, get crazy. And then another thing you can do is consider adding some basic supplements into your diet. So this will just help your overall organ function. And our food, unfortunately, is often depleted of nutrients because of the soil degradation. So a lot of the foods we are eating don't have the nutrients that we think that they have in them. So making sure that you're getting adequate vitamins and getting all the essential minerals for function, and omega-3 fatty acids are really great for brain function, and as well as strong anti-inflammatories. Probiotics are also great because it supports the gut, and the gut manufactures a lot of our happy hormones like serotonin and regulates a lot of other functions in our body. And then when you're getting supplements, just make sure that you're always getting good quality, and do your brand research. Like, be rigorous about your research and read about it, and understand what you're putting in your body. Cut out refined sugar. So this can be a hard one, as sugar is extremely addictive. But it's truly one of the worst offenders when it comes to chronic inflammation. And so to help curb your craving, you can incorporate naturally sweet foods into your diet. So in the summertime, do local seasonal summer fruits, and in this wintertime, you can do sweet root veg like sweet potatoes and beets and carrots and cooked onions and things like that. And what this will do is it'll kind of satisfy your sweet craving so that you don't have like such a strong craving for it. And you can be creative with these. So you don't just have to have like berries on their own. You can put them in a salad. You could puree raspberries or strawberries into a vinaigrette for a salad or for cooked vegetables. You could make some sort of a sauce. You can make muffins from sweet potatoes. I'll steam them and use them as like the wet base for a sweet potato, like a gluten-free sweet potato muffin. And they're so sweet, they taste like dessert, and I eat them for breakfast. So there are ways around the sugar cravings without depriving yourself. And then speaking of deprivation, don't actually deprive yourself. So I'm really big on this because when we go to extreme measures, we can often, it's like a slingshot effect. We can sling back the other way, or ricochet. I don't know what the metaphor is. So don't deprive yourself. So have the occasional cookie, have the occasional margarita if you want it, or even the occasional cigarette. Like do what makes you happy, but do it in moderation and don't indulge on a daily basis, because life is short, and it can be shorter or it can be longer depending on how we treat these precious vessels that we're here in. And as you acclimate to a healthier way of life, you may develop natural aversions to old habits anyways. So there's that. And then get more sleep, reduce stress, and get more rest. So meditate, do breath work, do yoga, dance, sweat, exercise, shake. This all reduces the body's stress levels and lowers the inflammatory response. So getting adequate sleep is one of the most important things that you can do for inflammation, and a host of other things. And then last but not least, connect. So you don't have to go it alone. Talk to your family and your household mates and ask for support. Perhaps inspire others to give it a go as well. Encourage children to develop a good relationship with healthy food from an early age, and mindful practices as well. Get them in the garden, get them in the kitchen, and teach them about real food. If you feel overwhelmed with the amount of information and want some guidance and accountability, maybe you seek the counsel of a health coach or a functional medicine doctor. If you're having serious health problems, obviously, please go see a doctor. But even before you go see a doctor, if you don't have serious ailments or concerns, you can take these steps on your own, and it'll kind of help to clear the pathway if you ever do need to go to the doctor, so that they can see exactly what's going on without all these other symptoms masking it. And keeping a food journal can also help a doctor. It helps you get to know yourself better, and it can help a doctor diagnose more serious issues down the line. And when you're searching for a doctor, do diligent research and don't settle for a physician who is not open to more holistic approaches. Ask questions, work with them. This is your life and your body. Take responsibility. So in conclusion, how to live a more anti-inflammatory lifestyle. Cook your own nutrient-dense food and add some quality supplements, and listen to your body's feedback. Educate yourself and always read labels. Stay curious. Cut out sugar and other toxic foods. Reduce stress and get adequate rest. And connect. So seek guidance from professionals and support from friends and family. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Lena and Crystal, for that sage advice and analysis for living a healthier nutritional lifestyle. I'm sure our audience won't find your remarks too inflammatory. Next up, we're going to have a musical offering from an instrument collector and musician from New York City, Mr. John McCormick.
Hello, my name is John McCormick, here in the West Village in Manhattan, surrounded by instruments. This particular instrument, this guitar, is a resophonic guitar. It has a special resonance, and it's a real privilege to play it for you today, for the ResonantMind Collective and everybody who's watching. This is a song I wrote many years ago. Enjoy. Okay, another song, another guitar. Beautiful little graphite guitar. So I thank Brooklyn Raga Massive for one of them gave me a lesson and was kind enough to say, hey, why don't you try polyrhythmic finger picking? So I developed this exercise. Well, the exercise became a little ballad. Here we go. Well, what about another guitar? And maybe a song with some words. This is a 12-string, which is also quite resonant. I like 12 strings, and we like resonance here, so... I say, wind of night, be gone, this is not your domain. In the sky a bird was seen to fly. Misty morning whisperings and gentle stirring sounds belie a deathly silence that lay all around. Hear the harken larken to the barking of the dog fox gone to ground. See the splashing of the kingfisher flashing toward the water. And a river of green is sliding unseen beneath the trees, laughing as it passes through the endless summer headed for the sea. On the lazy water meadow I lay me down. All around me golden sunflakes settle on the ground. Basking in the sunshine of a bygone afternoon. The sounds of yesterday inside my city room. Hear the harken larken to the barking of the dog fox gone to ground. See the splashing of the kingfisher flashing toward the water. And a river of green is sliding unseen beneath the trees, laughing as it passes through the endless summer, headed toward the sea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, for those sweet melodies, the deep resonances of the guitars from your collection, and those provocative lyrics. Super suggestive stuff. Now I'd like us to consider resiliency from a systems thinking perspective. In his book, Surviving the Future, David Fleming analyzes 4 different phases when it comes to the process of resilience in a system. That system could be a house, could be an ecosystem. It could also be a psychological system that has confronted trauma, let's say. In a beginning phase, he talks about conservation, that the system, let's say it's a house, is built, it's doing its thing, it's holding its rooms together, the electricity is working, the plumbing is working, everything is going great. And the resources are being utilized. But at some point, when adversity strikes, or there's a challenge to that system, maybe a tree falls on the roof, then we reach a stage called release, which means that the system loses its ability to conserve itself. It actually becomes disorganized or chaotic. This release phase is really important in terms of opening up new possibilities and creating change in a system where new opportunities can come in and new things can happen to the system. The next phase would be reorganization. Let's say the tree has fallen onto the roof, and now there is a cleanup effort. But in that effort, maybe there is a reorganization effort to improve the structure of the house. Maybe you're putting on a new roof, or you're expanding the layout of the house, making renovations, maybe making it bigger or more sturdy to withstand future adversity. This is a reorganization phase. And then there's another phase, the 4th phase, exploitation, which you might take some sense of. Exploitation can be bad in most connotations, but also it's the utilization, the uptake of resources in the system, that the system is serving its purpose. The house is being utilized again, or that after reorganization phase, it's able to, if healthy additions are made, let's say, to the house again, that it's able to exploit those new additions in a way that's actually beneficial to the system. So it could be cooperative exploitation. So maybe exploitation is a controversial term, but it means that the system finds its elasticity so that it can actually grow into maybe even a higher state of being. So I want you to think about this kind of systems perspective as we go to our next presenter, who is working with the system of the breath in the body. Next, yoga and meditation teacher Chikako with a lesson in complete breathing.
Hi, I'm Chikako. a yoga instructor based in New York City. Today I would like to show you a variation of complete breathing. It is one of the most effective ways to help us connect with our body, to feel more embodied, grounded, and centered. This breathing also calms the sympathetic nervous system so that we can deal with our life stress better. We will be lying down for this breathing, so please have your mat ready by your side. So let's begin. Please lie down on your back and make sure that you are comfortable.
Create a triangle shape with your hands. Have your thumbs and index finger to touch. Then place your palms over your lower belly, fingers pointing down. Keep the elbows and shoulders relaxed down. Now begin to breathe deep into the lower belly. Feel the triangle expand wide. And through the nose, exhale. Again, inhale down for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Relax the hips. Inhale down, 2, 3. Let the Buddha belly rise. And exhale. Relax the legs. Once more. Inhale down. Expand the triangle as much as you can with your breath. And exhale. Relax the feet. Good. Now relax your breathing and slowly move your hands up to your rib cage. Have your middle fingers touch atop the bottom of the rib cage and rest your palm over the circumference of the rib cage. Elbows and shoulders remain completely relaxed. Now concentrate on the rib cage region. Begin to inhale deep into the ribcage. Feel the whole ribcage expand beneath your hands. And exhale. Feel the ribcage move back into place. Again. Inhale deeper. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Relax the back of your heart. Inhale. Teach the lungs to breathe deeper. And exhale. Soften your heart. Once more. Inhale. Perceiving the infinite inner space. And exhale to melt your heart. Good. Now relax your breathing and slowly move your hands up to your collarbones and place your middle fingers on your collarbones. Keep your elbows and shoulders relaxed, please. Now concentrate on your fingertips. Breathe deep into the shoulder region. Feel your shoulders broad and wide. Exhale. Drop the shoulder blade down and back. Inhale towards the back of your neck. And exhale to release your throat. Inhale towards the back of your brain. Rejuvenate every molecule. And exhale. Soften your entire face. Inhale through the back of your neck all the way up to the top of your skull. And exhale. Soften your inner gaze. Very good. Now relax your breathing and slowly Let your arms fall by your side and relax your palms up. Keeping your body completely relaxed, we'll connect the 3 reasons we just breathed in one long sweeping breath. 3 counts in the lower belly, 2 counts in the rib cage, and 1 count in the shoulder region. Please follow my voice. We prepare the breath together. Take a simple deep breath in, and through the nose, exhale completely, empty all the air out. Now inhale down to the lower belly, 2, 3, rib cage, 1, 2, and shoulder, and hold the breath. And exhale slowly, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, inhale down, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Feel yourself completely full and whole. Slowly exhale, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once more, inhale down, 2, 3, rib cage and the shoulder. Feel yourself completely full and whole. Now, through the mouth, slowly exhale. Relax your breathing and surrender your body into the gravity. Remain still for a few moments and observe the effects. Enjoy the feeling of being grounded and centered. Thank you for joining me for complete breathing. Till next time, sending you good prana.
Thank you so much, Chicago. I hope our audience is definitely feeling a little relieved, as well as more elastic, ready to go with the flow. Breathwork is so important in everything that we do. It's our way to bring mindfulness or awareness to our actions, our thoughts, and our relationships. In terms of resilience, we know that some of the catalysts can be stress or trauma, but there are also benefits in terms of growth. And when we face challenges in our lives, there are a few specific kinds of responses that are our main options. We can choose or perhaps allow or accept failure to occur. It is an option. Sometimes or oftentimes it can be completely out of our control. Failure is normal in many cases in our lives, in our world. Failure is an option. It also can be the firmament for, again, something new to arise or come through. But there are also other kinds of responses in the soil that might become degraded due to pollution or industrial presence of chemicals. The response can be ecological if new nutrients are brought back to the soil, but that process can take a long time in order to be resilient and bring the soil health back into balance, ready to provide the nutrients for other life like plants or animals. Another response is engineering or designing a response which then can create something new, something beneficial in the system, create growth. For instance, a bridge over water, which allows us to try new things, which allows us to go new places, but also provides new pathways And that can happen in the brain as well. In fact, as we heard from our nutritionists and food experts today, there are all kinds of ways to create new connections and design neural pathways in the brains through what we eat, what we put into our bodies. And then another response type is adaptive response, which is the creative response, rather than, again, the reactive response, which might be closer to our instinctual programming, but creating space, mindfulness through the breath that allows us to gather enough awareness, enough space so that we can create something in that space, so that we can move through adaptively when stress comes into our lives, or when we are dealing with trauma from past experiences, and so that we can adapt ourselves, that we can find ways to understand that the benefits come through all types of experiences. A good case study of this is in the application of psychedelic therapy, which, as many of us know, is undergoing a research renaissance in the West, but has also been a source of therapy in many indigenous traditions for a long, long time. Here to discuss the adaptive benefits and a number of other ideas are psychedelics researcher Dr. Casey Palios in conversation with our own sound mind, Pete Sachs.
Casey, brother, so good to see you. We've been doing these types of conversations quite a bit lately, right? But likely most of the listeners here don't know that, and they probably don't know us, right? So why don't we quickly introduce ourselves, yeah?
Hi, my name is Dr. Casey Palios. I'm a psychiatrist, psychedelic researcher. I've been involved with psychedelic research since I was a resident in training over 10 years ago now at NYU, was a study therapist in the psilocybin cancer anxiety study there. And since then, psychedelic psychotherapy has kind of become my passion and focus in life. More recently, I've been serving as one of the principal investigators in the phase 3 clinical trial seeking FDA approval for MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD. I'm a study therapist in that trial as well, and just have a very strong interest in the use of psychedelics and other forms of altered states of consciousness in the service of healing and meaning making.
We are both also members of the ResonantMind Collective.
We are. We are indeed.
Got introduced to Alexan through you.
Yeah, we're both seekers. I think most of the people listening to this are probably also seekers.
Yeah.
One stripe or another.
And we've been seeking, our whole lives, I would say. I've known you now, I guess, since second grade.
Yeah, we were 7.
So that makes math on the fly. We almost 40 years we know each other, 37 years, something like that, 37, 36 years.
Yeah, it's crazy, but true.
Yeah, we are that old and we know each other that long. So I'm Pete Sachs. I am the founder of Chemistry Creative, a creative content and event production company based in Boca, New York. Among many other things, at Chem, we also proudly produce the ResonantMind Collective live stream events. I'm also a husband, partner, father, writer, and musician. I think also for the purposes of this talk and many other, I am a Dzogchen Buddhist practitioner and aspiring teacher in that tradition. For those of you who don't know, Dzogchen is a non-sectarian, non-dual Tibetan practice that is designed to point directly to our true nature, which is said to be inherently free and perfect. So, Casey, we're here to have a conversation around the idea of resilience. All right, we at SoundMind thought the topic was very important at this time. I think it's become clear that we are in a period of time that represents unprecedented upheaval for all of us, and a period that is just not going to magically disappear and go back to what was here prior. I think that's pretty safe to say. And I think that's where the topic of resilience sort of came up, as this is becoming obvious that this is more of a long distance run as opposed to a sprint. So, how can we be resilient, and how can we still grow as beings, even as we face sort of considerable uncertainty? And who knows, maybe even we can even accelerate our growth through these unprecedented times. And I think having your expertise on this subject would help many of us. So do you have any thoughts on this, Casey?
Yeah, on resilience specifically, I know you mentioned this to me yesterday, and I've thought about it quite a bit since then. So to me, resilience really derives a person's ability to be resilient in life. And when we talk about resilience, what's implied there is resilience in the face of something, some stress, some adverse circumstance, and implied there is suffering, right? So we're talking about resilience in the face of suffering. I want to talk a little bit about, if I may, my wife Dana, who, as you know, has been suffering for quite a few years herself, really since stage of 2016, so 25 years now. She's been contending with an illness. It's a muscle wasting pain, hypersensitivity syndrome, previously sort of undescribed to medicine, and which we've only really sort of been able to figure out through genetic testing over the last couple of years. But last 10 years, she's been in constant and sort of worsening pain throughout her body, and loss of functioning. She can't work now, and she deals with an enormous, exorbitant amount of suffering that I have to witness every day, and yet she's one of the most positive and frankly radiant beings that I know, and I'm exceedingly blessed to have her in my life, and to be married to her. I mean, it's I can't really put it into words what she means to me, and what sort of our shared kind of suffering sort of means. But I asked her to write a little bit about this, if I may, just kind of read to you guys a little bit about what she wrote. So she says, my survival has depended on consistently doing increasingly difficult new things I swore I could never do. From surgeries, experimental treatments, and medical procedures, to boldly facing my deepest psychospiritual trauma, to casting off the grim prognosis of allopathic medicine altogether. She goes on to say, I ultimately had to decide to fully reclaim my own agency. As Viktor Frankl said, those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. So she goes on to say, I did these previously unthinkable things in the context of deep love for the people who matter most to me, and love for a cause so much greater than my own, specifically a chance to lend my voice and experience to a crucial healing paradigm shift. Our personal sense of meaning is the axis mundi that makes the impossible possible. We can have utterly excruciating experiences on a personal level, but these experiences end up gracing us with confidence and keeping us aligned with the noetic gravity of a larger purpose. Finally, she says, people often tell me they couldn't do what I've done, but I always reply, you might be very surprised, even shocked at what you're actually capable of. So, and so to me, this is what resilience boils down to. It's this idea that if you have a sufficient why, you can bear anyhow. And meaning, getting to the concept of meaning per se, to me, meaning comes down to connectedness. I mean, the meaning of the concept meaning is about connectedness. This thing is connected to that thing, right? And for a human being, I mean, because we are social creatures, we are these social primates, and it's sort of hardwired into us, the most sort of basic fundamental level, to seek out connectedness with other humans, to seek out love, essentially. And it's as essential to survival as food, water, air, all of those, it's as essential to our well-being as those other things. So
it seems like we're really seeing that right now, right? I mean, a lot of people are saying this, I think that they wouldn't normally be thinking that, right? I think with this mandatory separation that we've had to take, it's really starting to register to people that we can't take it. Yeah. So what you're saying is very, very salient for this moment. But please go on.
When we place all of the source of the meaning in our lives on external factors, we place ourselves in a precarious position.
And that, that ties in very well to the, Buddhist principles, right? Of attachment, right? And these are the actual causes of suffering. Many people have heard sort of the Four Noble Truths, the first noble truth being translated, maybe perhaps wrongly, into life is suffering. Mm-hmm. Right. And what is meant by that is actual conditioned reality, duality, right? This and that, buying
self and
into
other,
that.
Yeah. Subject
object, buying into that through ignorance and excessive attachment is suffering, right? And that's the cause of suffering. So what you say is very true, right? How do we find something even deeper than that, right? It doesn't mean that you have to push that out, right? Like my practice in looking for this deeper sense of well-being does not push my children further away because they are now a form of attachment. Mm-hmm. It actually just makes my love for them more and more and more. I think that compassion seems to also naturally flow out of the space that you are trying to get into, right? Beyond the dualities, right? So there's a space there. Things seem to emerge out of empty space sort of miraculously. Mm-hmm. But in that empty space seems to be, as far as I can tell, like completely diffused with compassion and love for all beings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? So it also increases your love for your own children, in my experience, but also for all beings in general. So just a little bit of note on the practice, right? I've sort of had this in here from the standpoint of resilience, right? Resilience, like you said, is standing sort of in opposition to some degree, right? And withstanding. But even what you were saying, talking about with Dana, right? Mm-hmm. It's not quite resilience. It's almost, if you get a step deeper than resilience, you get into something that resembles more acceptance, right? Mm-hmm. And something more into equanimity and sort of, love per se, perhaps, for all of experience, right? It becomes less of a battle. It becomes less of an idea of like stoically sitting and standing through it, but actually sort of in some ways celebrating that like all experience can be regarded as equally valid and worthy of experiencing in some sense. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, through our experience, we've certainly been confronted to varying degrees of intensity and frequency with this idea of impermanence and death. And, it's sort of created, the fact that she has an illness that, various experts in the field have essentially told her is terminal, has sort of viscerally, on a visceral level, has forced us to confront this idea of impermanence. And I think in certain ways it absolutely has fostered in both of us an appreciation for the moment and not taking any moment that we have together for granted. For us, we feel very connected to one another, but also connected through our connection to a larger purpose. We have this practice of just kind of, it might sound corny, but, just kind of like we try and begin and end each day with just like holding each other. And there is this sort of, we both feel this ineffable type of energy that kind of flows through us when we do that. And it feels like we're, in doing that, we're sort of plugging into what seems to us to be this kind of like almost like source energy. We both feel like replenished, and it's a restorative practice for us. And again, it gets back to this idea of connectedness and meaning. And so much of whatever that connection is escapes words and conceptualization. But I think one thing that I have been able to sort of distill from it, that I could articulate, is, we are connected to something larger than ourselves. And I think that's this idea of meaning, and meaning as a means toward resilience in the face of suffering and inevitable death and decay, is connectedness to something larger than oneself.
From a practice standpoint, right? As far as like a practical thing that people can do, and I know for a fact that my practice has made me so much more resilient psychologically, emotionally, even physically. Right? Like, if I could say anything in these times as these are happening, is to really work on having, like you're doing, you're describing a practice, right? You guys have a practice, and that's an everyday thing that you're doing. And I think that is meant to tap into this source, right? I think any recommendation that I can have for people would be to find that practice in your own life. Yeah. Right. And now seems to be about as good a time as any to do that. We have more time at home, more in some ways, probably more free time if we don't, deciding on how we want to fill it. So I think there's a chance here to simplify a little bit and probably decomplicate. And I think that's partly what's happening with all, the civil unrest, the protests, sort of what's happening, in the world. It's like when things started getting stripped aside, right? Less distractions, not as much sports stuff, not as much work, I got to take care, it's just, and as that started to fall away, like what rose was like, well, what is it all about? Like, what is the meaning? And then, out of these horrible acts that people then witnessed with very little distraction, it's not like you could watch this thing with George Floyd and then just like, oh, I'm going to watch a Knick game. Right. Like it was just much more just stuck with us. And I think and this is something truly beautiful and meaningful that's coming out of it. Now, how it all comes to be and that we can't know. But this same thing, I think, can happen in each of us if we can take this moment to simplify, like you're saying, and look at what is this most vital, important piece aspect to my life and investigate it. And I think, a meditation practice, a mindfulness practice, I think that these are great ways to do that. I mean, there are other ways, but it does take some contemplation, and it does take a little bit of mitigating, or at least watching what we bring into our thinking, what we bring into our lives. So anyway, I think we got to probably wrap up, but I think this has been a really great talk. I think we've explored resilience from many different angles here. And I think just by you sharing Dana's story, I think it's just very powerful. I mean, I know Dana, and she's a beautiful person. It gives hope, right? I think Dana gives us all hope, that there is something meaningful, and we're all better than we think we are.
Well, yes, and it's her story sort of speaks to kind of the opportunity and sort of the responsibility we all have to find meaning in our experience. She could have made the choice to just dwell on how unfair, the cards that she were dealt are, and why is this happening to me? And, in a number of objective ways, she has ample justification to be miserable. And had she taken that path, I don't think she'd be alive right now. But instead, she finds a way to focus her awareness on the meaning of her experience. And there, she wrote this beautiful letter I'd love to share with you one day, like, to her pain, and the way it's been such an important teacher to her. And a lot of it boils down to this idea of being present. And it's kind of forced on her this mindfulness practice, because when you're in that much pain, like, you have no choice but to be in the present moment. Yeah. And so, she's found ways to really take her experience and use it as a way to generate meaning, rather than to dwell in what could otherwise be experienced as just like the horrible sort of random cruelty of a meaningless universe, which I think is we don't have time to get into this, but that is something that really plagues us as a society. This reductionist, materialist worldview that tells us that nothing really means anything. It's all just billiard balls, and we're all just accidents. I think it's a very corrosive worldview, and something that maybe subject for another talk.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely do another talk. And thank you for sharing, and tell Dana I said thank you so much for her words and for being her.
Thanks for your words.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. We'll be doing a lot more. If anyone's interested, you'll come find us eventually.
I hope this was helpful. Some part of this was helpful to someone. That would be great.
Yeah, I think so. And it's always a pleasure. You and I have had many of these conversations, and I'm never disappointed by your wealth of knowledge and wisdom.
Likewise, brother.
All right, brothers.
Love you, man.
I love you too.
Be well.
Thank you, Pete and Dr. Casey Palios, for that enlivening, inspiring discussion, and for fighting the reductionist, materialistic worldview. We really, really live in a complex existence. It's not flat. It is subtle. It is spoking into new territories and new possibilities all the time. Only 5% of the universe is actual matter. There is 95% of the universe that is still pure possibility. So, with that in mind, you are watching Sound Mind. We are here in our ongoing Sunday series exploring the topic of resilience in a number of different facets. We've discussed resilient bodies, the phases of resilience, catalysts of resilience, and resilient responses. One other point that I'd like to touch on is on resources for resilience. In your life, there are 4 specific aspects that you can tend to and cultivate your own resilient resources. You've heard about a number of these elements already in this broadcast, but I'd like to speak to a couple of them specifically. One is practices. This could be meditation. It could also be an active practice, let's say walking or running, something that provides a grounded space for you to cultivate your mindfulness, your awareness. Could also be playing music, for instance. But a practice, there are many in our lives, and I invite each of you to be diligent and consistent in how you cultivate your personal practices, because when adversity strikes, your practice will help you adapt. Another resource is creativity. Creativity is almost synonymous with mindfulness, because creativity is the ability which takes cultivation to respond in the moment in a way that is not just some robotic, programmed, reductive response, that there are possibilities in the moment. No matter what's happening, that there are opportunities for solutions which may not have been present just a moment before, but emerge in the moment and can be worked with and help you find agency. Another resource are your relations. Now, our relations, as Dr. Palios was speaking to, really make the world a meaningful place. These relations also are the bedrock of our ability to get back on our feet when we are in pain or when we are experiencing a sense of lack of agency. That we are never actually completely independent, despite our culture of individuality in the West. We are deeply, deeply interconnected, whether it's family, friends, teachers, or people that you've only had brief acquaintances with. Still, there are the opportunities to bond together and find connections that can benefit you and everyone that you come in contact with. So generosity and kindness are key values, key currencies, really, in our relationships, which allow us to build our resilience. And then lastly, our livelihood. How do we sustain ourselves? How do we meet our needs and the needs of our families and our communities? What is it that we're contributing to our world to make our communities, to make ourselves more resilient? There are all kinds of ways that we can develop our skills as well as our talents so that we can construct a healthy and responsive world that perhaps one day will work for everyone and not just a few. With these thoughts, now I invite you to listen to sound facilitator from Santa Ynez, California, the mind-boggling Jessie Flower Ambrook, with a presentation on loss.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessie Flower Ambrock. I'm a sound facilitator. I'm based in Santa Ynez, California. It's my pleasure to be with you here today and to speak on resilience. The focus of my meditation today is going to be on loss and grieving and how we can use ceremony and ritual as a way to recognize and metabolize the things that happen to us in order to further transformation, to open ourselves to new possibilities. So I'd like you to find a comfortable place where you can sit or lie down for the next 20 minutes or so. And I recommend wearing headphones. I'd like to find a place that feels private, a place that you can be emotionally vulnerable. Once you've got yourself set up, begin connecting with your breath. Feeling the air move in and out of your body. close your eyes. Begin to relax the muscles of your face. And take 3 deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Once again, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Over the past months, our world has endured a lot of change. Everyone has been affected. In subtle ways, in large ways. And in this exercise, we're going to explore these changes together, safely, kindly, using our imagination to explore together. So with your eyes still closed, imagine yourself in a room with a fireplace, comfy furniture, a large desk. And you're seated at the desk, on which has a large sheet of paper and a pen. Pick up the pen and begin to recall some of the things that you have lost over the past 6 months. One at a time, begin writing them down on the piece of paper. As you write, allow the emotions associated with each loss to come up, to feel them fully. Write about many things, or one thing with many details. Whatever is coming up naturally for you, continue imagining yourself to write these things out. Feel in your body as you write from the body. yourself to begin wrapping up. You've got about another 30 seconds to a minute to write. Sit with the paper at your desk. Begin carefully folding it into a square. You stand up. You pick up the piece of paper. You walk outside, step through a doorway, carrying the paper with you to an outside veranda where you meet a group of people, all of which who are committing the same ritual as you, all who have wrote their losses on their page and who are with you. And you meet in a circle, see the faces of the people around you. And one by one begin placing your pages into a bowl at the center of the group, beautiful ceramic bowl. You place your paper down amongst the others. An individual from the group steps forward and lights a match and applies it to the papers, which immediately begin curling against the fire, and steps back, or she, and you all observe flames as they engulf the pages you've written, enveloping with fire, transforming them into ash and heat. You watch in silence together. You hear the sounds of nature around you as you stand in solidarity of each other. And the last bit of paper is disappearing into ash, which is swirling with a little bit of breeze that's around you. And the group comes together and as one picks up the bowl and begins carrying it away from the house, away from the structure. And across to a broad field with trees and brush. And there someone has dug a hole. You walk up to the hole which has been begun, and you dig your hands into it. You're feeling the earth between your fingers, the smell of the earth. The texture. And bring the bowl closer to the hole. And with utmost care and love, in pouring the ashes into the hole that was created. And refilling the earth by hand. And another member arrives with a pot of water. You carefully pour the water over the fresh earth, soaking it and refreshing the soil. And you stand with the group in a circle around the earth pile. Again in silence and recognition. Now you begin walking away from the group towards a solitary bench that is yours. And you sit down and then you take a deep breath. You spend some time in your heart. And imagine the people outside of you who are maybe suffering, perhaps greater than you. Hold those people in our heart. You open your eyes and stand up, walk away from the bench, through the field. Hear your feet in the grass as you move. Smell the air. Feel the breeze and the ambiance of being in nature. The visualization begins to fade into nothing as you exit the field. And slowly begin to return to your body. Take 3 more deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. One last time, breathing in and out. So important to stop and recognize when you've experienced loss. It's easy to think about resilience as simply moving on from the things that have happened from you. But we're humans, we feel emotions, and grieving is a real thing. And there are small deaths and large deaths and everything in between. So we can use ritual and ceremony in order to place emphasis on these things that have happened to us for a moment, and to reflect and to fully feel our emotions before we can then move on and reevaluate, reimagine, and transform our lives to the new reality that is unfolding underneath us at all times. Thanks again for being with me and for sharing this space together. I bow to you deeply. Be well.
My friends, lovers, enlightened ones, Here we are without any cedars of Lebanon. How many screens are between us? There are the diode screens, the silk screens, meshes, medical screens, unmonitored screens, palm and pining screens, silenced screens, screaming screens, screens touched and untouched, distracting from distraction by distraction, projecting projections onto projections, reflecting reflections from reflections. These are only words. I wish they were more humorous. When did we forget that waking begins with I feel, therefore I am? How much sleep debt have we accumulated as a species? We are still young, infatuated with our toys, unschooled by symbiosis at our quarter-life crisis. But it is time to print less and transfer more. It is time to participate directly, to wash our own hands, or let them stay dirty, to keep our waters wild, to topple the cabal of materialism, to act as if every single thing is a living thing, for it is. How many Purple Hearts go unawarded as the shadows of Hiroshima and the Dakotas? It is time to carry our relationships to their thriving place, to tell each other our dreams without demurrage, to scale up abundancy through Eagle's unfolding Air Force, to drench the forest edges with homecoming gifts, to uncake cement from our mother's face, to detonate song and sculpture in the minds of the wounded, to turn the corner onto Stewardship Avenue. Nature does not select, it integrates. The mycelium warns the forest endangered. My fellow city zen stirs. We needn't descend from Darwinist nihilist fucks. Staring at screens is not the pinnacle of our maturity. We are not your future crybaby cyborg corp. We are the free and the brave, the lingerie activists, the mediums who defy strife, the lichens seeding the shore, the sequoia of Broadway heading to the place where water speaks. To Bouge, it says, do you remember where we listen, where we create, invent, play, intuit, all star, sigh, sing, and paint? It is here where we are. Oh, we are vibrant of voice. Ah, we are capable of chorusing. Together we are a moving forest. Beware, Dunsinane. We are the radiation, the first thought, quadratically attuning this declaration. Our waterways have rights. Our air, our mountains, our trees, our gardens, our children, our pets all have rights. That is our law. It is not only words. It is our joy inchoate. It is ha. So laugh heartily. Injustice is abolished. When all are nourished, there is nothing to protect. Let borders be abolished. Now there is nothing between us. Now we weave together all stories. Now we will thrive geodesically. Let all who wander walk freely, from land to coast to whimsy, from sunset to sunset, or hop to jump and further. Let us only guard our physics of happiness, my dear Camus. Let us meet under elms. Calendars are abolished. Time is a blossom that dilutes in muddy boxes. No more adding Mondays to Mondays. No more underground railways to the afterlife. Now death comes by mountains. Now we surf the spirals of Teresian waves immemorial. GDP is dead. Careers are over. No more will we spend our lives hawking economic contagion. We put down our screens. We choose the true responsibilities. We run towards them hands high above, running free over root beds and leaf cakes. We steeple over fallen logs, sententious as our own limbs. Survival mode is abolished. We retire Nolan Volans, our dominion instincts and armaments. We are leaving on permanent retreat. We are awake from history. We recognize the artistry in every color eyes. We are here only to tend our gardens. Crop number 1, every heart radiates the same field theory. Crop number 2, every mind desires the gamma synchrony of love. Whether secretly or famously, we feel familiar the tug of the knots, the star cluster in our relations, the lines of the world, those plenitudes awaiting something loose. Here and everywhere, in, out, and around. Let us evolve into the open air unframed, where we'll recognize truth's bell as it rings. Let our intuition precede information in the name of pear memes, in the name of har har. The heart's intelligence may yet evade extinction by transfixiation. There is enough. There is enough. There is enough. There is enough for all the nothings, for all the somethings, for all the wasn'ts, for all the wills, for all the wordless, for all the troubled, for all the healers, for all the unconvinced, for all the trees, for all the sunken, for all the tides, for all the heavenly bodies, for all the floating, flowing, and frozen, for all our children and their precious gardens. Great ocean, wash over these sandcastles. Come help us relinquish our surnames. Let us feast on not knowing. You've been listening to Sound Mind. Thank you so much for joining us for our Sunday series. It's an ongoing series, and we hope that you will find us here again next month. Thanks to all our presenters from our collective. You can find more on our website. Until our next broadcast, stay inspired.